It's July 17th, 1994. It's the finals of the World Cup, taking place in the iconic Rose Bowl Stadium in California. It's been a tense affair between tournament favorites Brazil and a scrappy Italian squad, as the game heads into penalty shootouts without a single goal scored. Roberto Baggio steps up to the box to take Italy's fifth and final penalty. The 27-year-old superstar has been carrying his team all tournament, scoring 5 crucial goals to make it to the finals, and now has the chance to keep his country's hopes alive for their 4th World Cup victory. This one moment would define Baggio's entire career, just not in the way that he wanted.
He's missed it, and Brazil win the World Cup.
Roberto Baggio, nicknamed the Divine Ponytail, was born in Caldogno, Italy in 1967. Baggio started playing football at a young age, and his exceptional talent was evident right from the start. His skill and abilities were enough to get him scouted by professional club Vicenza at just 13 years old. He got his first call-up to the professional team in 1983, but failed to find consistent playing time for most of the season. He became a regular starter the next year, scoring 12 goals in 29 appearances, while helping Vicenza secure promotion to the Serie B. At just 17 years old, Baggio had established himself as one of Italy's brightest young stars. He agreed to a transfer to Fiorentina, as the young Italian became one of the most popular and talented players in the world. In 1989, Baggio netted 24 goals and 7 assists across all competitions, leading Fiorentina to their first Europa League final, losing to rivals Juventus 3-1. Baggio would join Juve the following year and continued to dominate. He became the team's captain in 1992 and led them to a UEFA Cup victory, scoring twice in a dominant 6-1 win over Dortmund. He was named the FIFA World Player of the Year and won his first Ballon d'Or trophy. And on the international stage, Baggio was even better. He scored 5 goals and netted 7 assists in 8 appearances for Italy to secure them a trip to the US for the 1994 World Cup. Despite Roberto Baggio's incredible talent, there were some questions around how he'd perform at the World Cup. Baggio was coming off surgery to repair a torn meniscus, and his rust showed in the opening round of the tournament. Italy dropped their first game against Ireland 1-0, and barely scraped a win of their own against a weak Norwegian team. Baggio had nothing to contribute, getting subbed out early against Norway, and then went missing in their final group match against Mexico, which they drew 1-1. Italy finished 3rd in their group, and barely squeezed into the knockout stage as the lowest seed. But that's when Roberto Baggio came to life. Trailing Nigeria late in the round of 16, Roberto Musi found Baggio at the edge of the box, and his shot curled into the bottom corner to tie the game at 1. And in extra time, it was Baggio once again who found the back of the net, this time from the penalty spot, which was enough to secure Italy the come-from-behind victory. Baggio faced off against Spain in the quarterfinals and delivered another stellar performance. He scored the game-winning goal in the 88th minute with an amazing display of skill and poise. Baggio continued to dominate in the semis, scoring 2 more goals in just a 4-minute span to will Italy past Bulgaria and into the finals. And so, Italy came face-to-face with tournament favorites Brazil for the chance to hoist a 4th World Cup title in their history. But for Roberto Baggio, this matchup meant even more. At just 3 years old, Baggio watched the 1970 World Cup finals with his dad, as Italy fell to Pelé and Brazil 4-1. On that day, Baggio made a vow to his dad that he would one day beat Brazil and hoist a World Cup trophy of his own. And with his dad now watching him in the stands 24 years later, it was Roberto Baggio's chance to fulfill that promise. The '94 World Cup Finals was an extremely tense match, with both teams getting scoring chances early on. But the game remained scoreless through 90 minutes and headed into extra time. Roberto Baggio got Italy's only chance of the frame, striking a beautiful half volley from outside the box that nearly curled into the top corner. But ultimately, neither team could find the back of the net, so the World Cup winner would be decided in a penalty shootout. It was the first time a World Cup Finals had reached penalties, and in a packed Rose Bowl arena with 90,000 fans, the stakes of this moment couldn't be any higher. Italy was first to crack under the pressure, as Franco Baresi skied the very first penalty. Fortunately, Italian keeper Gianluca Pagliuca made a brilliant stop on the very next penalty to even up the score. The game remained tied at 2-2 after 3 rounds, until Daniele Massaro stepped up and delivered a weak penalty that was easily saved by Brazil's keeper. And after Carlos Dunga converted the advantage, Roberto Baggio stepped up to the box, needing to score to keep his country alive in the match. But this was Baggio, Italy's brightest star, the defending Ballon d'Or winner, and the man whose 5 knockout stage goals has carried his team to the finals. If not for Baggio, Italy wouldn't even be in this position. And yet, here he is again, with the hopes of a nation in his hand, needing just one more solid strike. But Baggio was confident. He had never missed a penalty in his professional career, and knew Brazilian keeper Claudio Taffarel would surely dive either left or right. Baggio made his decision. He was going to aim down the middle and lift the ball high up to avoid any chance of a save. And so, he stepped up and took the penalty. The ball sailed high over the net, sealing Brazil's World Cup victory and an Italian heartbreak. But as the Brazilians ran around the pitch in celebration, Baggio stood motionless in the penalty box, his hands on his hips, not moving for what felt like minutes. The devastation was written all over his face. It was as if his spirit had been broken, his dreams crushed. The light in his eyes permanently faded away, leaving only the empty shell of a man who had once been alive. In one moment, Roberto Baggio went from the hero of Italy to the man who broke their hearts, the man who died standing. Baggio took most of the blame for Italy's World Cup defeat. Despite key penalty misses from other teammates and the 5 goals he scored to get Italy to the finals, many fans couldn't look past this moment and held it against him for the rest of his career. Roberto Baggio continued to play football for another 10 years. He was still a formidable force on the field, scoring over 300 goals in his career and establishing himself as one of Italy's all-time great players. But it was clear that Roberto Baggio was not the same. The penalty miss haunted him for years. He dreamed about it constantly, filling himself with dread each time he replayed the moment in his mind. It was the one nightmare he couldn't escape, and will live in infamy as one of the saddest moments in sports history. The World Cup trophy is the pinnacle achievement of the sports world. It's been won 22 times throughout its history, but it's only been lost once.